Morning, guys. Welcome to Coffee Chat. Oh my goodness, guys, that was not my first sip. I'll tell you that right now. Got up a little earlier this morning, and being that it's Columbus Day, it's a holiday here in the U.S., and of course, markets aren't open and anything like that. But got up a little bit early and just kind of starting to read some articles here because, of course, the fallout with everything that happened on Friday to today, truly wild, absolutely crazy. And of course, my personal opinion. I do believe that there was some genuine, manipulation going on in the market, and it just that cascading effect. And one of the things that really drives me big time is a lot of the great people, good people that have invested in this space, and they were leaving their assets on the exchange, but they put in these stop losses. Now they weren't leveraging or they weren't risking, leverage or shorting or anything like that, but they thought, okay, fine, I got in after January there at $2 and $3. I'm going to put a stop loss in there at around $1.50. Every one of those stops got all stopped out. They got liquidated, and yet they weren't able to get back on the exchange to get in there and to get their positions back. And I just think it's horrific. And in fact, the fact that a lot of these limit orders that people put in, a lot of those weren't even being triggered. And I think, my gosh, you can liquidate all these people, but you can't deal with the limit orders? Come on, something's off right there. Anyway, I'll tell you what. If you survived it, you did absolutely fantastic. And guys, I want to ask you a quick question. Do you think the fundamentals have changed in any way in this space? Really? Do you think the fundamentals have changed? Well, they really haven't. I mean, I was reading an article how Monica Long was on an interview, and she was coming out talking about how, of course, Bank of America, and we know this, has literally said, listen, we're all in on XRP. This is Monica Long, the president of, Ripple, coming out and saying that, hey, Bank of America has already confirmed they're all in on XRP. And of course, we know that other banks around the wide world are literally using the XRP ledger to transfer this value. We know that with SBI Japan over there in Dubai, on and on and on. For those folks that tell you no banks are using XRP, that is utter hogwash. They are, and they're using it right now. But beyond that, I think what we are going to see is a lot of pent-up strength when these ETFs actually launch. And of course, because of the demand to buy, they are required to hold the underlying asset for these spot ETFs. And what we just witnessed here over the weekend was an absolutely orchestrated, manipulated flash crash, the worst we have ever seen in the history of this digital asset space. And so for me, I look at that and I think this is an anomaly. It has never happened like this before in the sense of the size of the crash. We have seen, by the way, interestingly enough, we have seen a very similar scammy wick happen just before a massive blow-off in 2017. And it's right there on the charts as plain as day for folks to see it. There was a liquidation event and it was big. And what ended up happening is not much longer after that saw one of the biggest, most meteoric rises in XRP's history right there, guys. And I think that with everything that's going down and all the fundamentals, and when in doubt, zoom out, that is what's coming next. I believe that wholeheartedly. I'll tell you that. And so I'm really looking forward to the end of this month to see the OCC, remember the banking license that Ripple applied for? I think that's going to have a huge impact. The ETFs, when they come out, that's going to have a huge impact. And guys, the fundamentals of what we're going into, it hasn't changed. And I've opened up my coaching. A lot of people had said, David, we're interested in your coaching. We, especially in this crash. Guys, it is going to be so important for you to be able to know how to actually navigate this market and to understand the psychology of it and to literally balance your portfolio towards the achievement of your goals just like that, and setting up for yourself an exit strategy that is going to work and long term. You see, you need a strategic investment plan. And I've thrown that out there. I've made no bones about it. Judy and I'm telling you, if it wasn't for the fact of what we had last time and the thinking that was going through our minds, we would have been decimated just like everybody else. Do you know most people during that last run rode it all the way up and they rode that thing all the way back down? The majority of people, their portfolios, they saw it on paper, but they never realized those gains. And this is the deal, guys. When you're talking about investing, you're talking about a return on that investment, aren't you? Well, you don't really get that return unless you actually realize the gains. Now, the thing is this. A lot of people are saying, well, I would never sell my XRP. Even my friend Versan Algera, that is his take on it. But I know so many people that are in situations where, look, guys, they are looking for this big move because they've got kids to take care of. They've got medical bills. They have mortgages to pay. They want to retire. They want to see a change. And right now, this space, as we just saw, still, it is chock full still of massive volatility. And at least you need to understand that we are not in mutual funds over here, are we? We're in the biggest risk on asset class there is. And why? Because we see such great level of potential reward. That's why. And so, of course, you're going to see major ups and major downs. And I think that's going to continue until the uncertainty dissipates from the market. Now, that's not going to happen till we get the regulatory clarity and the institutional, not adoption, but application. Because, guys, they are adopting it big time. Who do you think was buying up all of that, when it was dropping back down like that? And triggered all those sales and stop losses and everything. Who do you think was really out there gobbling up the market? Oh, there was some retail in there. But do you know it was mostly institutions? Big. In fact, XRP increased. I think it was something like 75 billion in market cap or something like that. It got like some massive, massive amounts up there. It was truly wild. Maybe it was 75 million, not billion. But needless to say, it was a significant amount. And that was not retail right there. It was not retail. And that tells you everything you need to know. Why would these institutions be willing to gobble up all that risk right there? Well, of course, for them, it was a fire sale, wasn't it? Isn't it amazing that they had access? Over-the-counter trades, all this and that. Oh, they got access, but how many people couldn't get onto their accounts for the life? Robinhood, I think, was the worst one. But then, of course, you did have Coinbase, Crack, and Uphold, and all those guys as well. And I recommend Caleb and Brown. If it interests you, it's there. But the thing is this, ultimately, we are going to see a major, major change in the way the financial infrastructure works in the wide world. We're investing, guys, in the future. That's what we're doing. And I want you to make it. Judy and I want you to make it. I mean, in a big way. We don't get out there. We don't try to push, all these sponsors and all that kind of stuff and everything like that, because we want to get out here and share with you, like I love to always say, our 100% biased opinion. And when I take a look at what's going on in the broader markets, especially the adoption in this space, the regulatory clarity, the institutions coming in with their exchange traded products, whether they be ETNs, ETFs, or whatever they are, they're coming out with that. Of course, the implementation of a lot of nations around the world with, the digital identities and, of course, the ownership of things with non-fungible tokens and, the tokenization of real world assets. It is so, so huge. And it is getting pushed so, so aggressively that, look, to me, that's where the opportunity lies. And I think for a lot of you as well, when you peel back that onion, well, I'll tell you, you want to be strategic when you're stepping into it, don't you? You don't want to make the same mistakes other people make. And one of the things we talk about in coaching are some of the big time mistakes that Judy and I made and how we got ripped off and scammed and like a lot of other people and how to avoid those pitfalls. Plus, of course, we talk about some major techniques that you can employ, get yourself ready for the space because, guys, we do. Judy and I genuinely want you to make it big time. You can visit us, if that interests you, at thedigitaloutlook.com right there. Get yourself on the calendar and we can go from there. But I'll tell you, guys, it is truly wild in my mind when you consider everything that people are saying, all the FUD that goes on in this space. When XRP was dropping down like that, oh, the fudsters were going bananas. Absolutely bananas. Isn't that wild? And yet, here we are, bounced back practically a V-shaped recovery. Today, I think I saw XRP up there over $2.60. Well, from a drop where it dropped down to a $1.25. That is insane. And guys, what a lot of these TA folks are saying, you are looking at the potential of watching XRP explode into levels most people can't. Can you imagine if we saw XRP before the end of the year hit $100 plus? Can you just imagine from where we are today? If it absolutely took off like that, it is going to blow people's ever-loving minds. Now, guys, we're going to see tears as it goes up there, and that type of thing. And that's where you also want to be really strategic. What you're thinking. Why would you do that? Have you ever considered it? On and on and on. There's so many things, guys, you want to throw out there. But it is moving, that is for sure. And I'll tell you what, it'll blow people's ever-loving minds. I genuinely do believe it. What's coming next is going to really change the wide world and the way in which it even works. And I think between now and maybe even by the end of 2026, the change that is coming is going to be mind-bending, staggering, I'll tell you what. And guys, just buckle up. This is going to be a wild ride. But if you made it through Friday and all the way to today, you've earned your stripes as far as I'm concerned, I'll tell you what. So guys, until later on today, when we have another fantastic video for you, have a fabulous one and take care.